A young woman on the rebound makes an unexpected connection.
She wasn't looking for a relationship. They just kind of bumped into each other.
It's almost the stuff that movies are made of.
They were really focused on starting a life together.
Then the happy couple disappears.
For her not to answer her phone, it's definitely concerning.
She was missing school. It didn't sound like her.
Something's not right.
As tensions mount, her family must prove their case.
The police wouldn't file a report.
They're adults. They're allowed to up and leave if they choose.
If something happened to both of them, I knew something was wrong.
Or is the truth far worse than anyone could imagine?
He was infatuated with Jasmine.
It just makes everything so much more horrific.
It's just evil.
June 20th, 2011. It's late Monday afternoon in Southampton County, Virginia, when a sheriff's deputy spots a silver Chevy sedan with New York plates.
The sheriff's department just got a call from OnStar saying that car fitting this description has just been reported stolen.
OnStar is a program used in cars that allows drivers to call for help. It has GPS features, and OnStar can use the GPS, track you down, send authorities your way if you're in an emergency situation.
They could also be used to track a vehicle if it's reported missing or stolen.
Within minutes, the suspicious vehicle comes to a stop. But as the deputy approaches the car on foot, the driver suddenly hits the gas.
It sped away, and they gave pursuit.
The driver of the stolen car has no intention of stopping. As the suspect flees into neighboring Greenville County, more deputies join the chase.
The vehicle takes those police on a two-county chase, driving at high speeds.
As the pursuit intensifies, deputies radio ahead and arrange a trap.
Spike strips were utilized as they attempt to stop the vehicle.
When the car runs over the spikes, they puncture several tires.
The driver actually lost control of the car and the vehicle finally comes to a stop.
But the chase is far from over.
The driver bails out of the car and starts to run.
There are shots fired at officers.
As shots ring out, officers do all they can to apprehend the gunman safely. Because the desperate man they're chasing isn't just a suspected car thief. He's the key to unraveling the truth behind two mysterious disappearances. If they can catch him alive.
Drop your gun now! You drop that gun!
Brooklyn native Jasmine Nunez was the apple of her parents' eye.
She was the happiest child. She always had a smile, that face, always.
She was very special. She just knew what was the right thing to say to everyone. And it was one of the reasons why people always wanted to be around her.
She was so positive. Her energy was always very uplifting, and she just loved to encourage people to be themselves. And she was always the life of the party. That was Jasmine.
Jasmine was one of the best people that you would ever meet.
And there was no better friend to Jasmine than her younger sister, Melanie.
We were best friends growing up. Because we were so close in age,
They almost felt like twins because they were always together. Jasmine always looking after her little sister, and this love that you would see through her, you know, through them.
we fought like any siblings would, but it was always very short. We would get over it really quick. And there were definitely more happy times than petty arguments.
They always respected and showed love towards each other. It was, as a parent, that's what you want for your kids, you know?
But for Jasmine and Melanie's parents, it was a different story.
We end up separating, and she ended up going to Queens with Jasmine and Melanie.
In 2002, when Jasmine was in middle school, she, Melanie, and their mother moved to Springfield, Massachusetts.
My mom decided that she kind of wanted a change and thought it was a great place to raise a family.
As her mother predicted, Jasmine thrived in her new environment.
She was getting straight A's. She was on honor roll.
When Jasmine graduated high school in 2006, college was the obvious next step.
She enrolled at the community college in the town, and she was just kind of doing general studies at that point.
Jasmine also started dating a young man named Carl Davis.
They met on social media, and the relationship progressed quite quickly.
How's everything going?
It's going good.
It is?
Going good. Trying to get this done.
I know you're going to do great.
I haven't seen her that happy ever. She truly loved him.
They were like really in love.
But after 2 passionate years, Jasmine decided her future came first.
They just have different goals in life. That's pretty much what put them apart. She wanted to finish her education.
He was really hurt after they broke up.
After the breakup, Jasmine felt the need to put a little distance between her and Carl.
She was going to move to New York and start a new life. That breakup just pushed her to maybe try new things.
She wanted to come and go to school in New York and give it another try.
Soon after the move, Jasmine started taking classes at a Manhattan technical college.
One of our family members had been doing the surgical technician program and had told her that it wasn't hard to get enrolled and that it was a pretty fast program, and she just thought it was perfect.
With schoolwork taking up so much of her time, Jasmine turned to social media to keep up with friends and family.
This is 2009, 2010 when Facebook has really taken off and a lot of young people are becoming obsessed with it. And Jasmine was part of that.
She would use that as a way to connect, would update and let you know what was going on in her life or just to check up. She was always really good about that.
In addition to updating old friends, social media was also a way to make new ones.
Jasmine used social media pretty frequently. She found it just like really entertaining. She had made like, social media friends.
But it was a chance encounter offline that changed her life forever when she met a charming airport security guard named Andres Ceballos in 2010.
Hey, you okay?
I just missed my flight.
Well, I just got off of my break. You mind if I join you?
Sure.
They started having a conversation, and that's kind of how it started with those two.
I mean, look at the bright side. At least now you get to eat half a sandwich.
Half a sandwich.
It was the type of thing they would rip off of a page of a Hollywood script.
There was something about him that definitely intrigued her. He had graduated from Cornell University. He had his own place. It seemed like he really had his head on straight, and that was something that drew Jasmine in because he seemed like he would be a good person to have a future with.
Suave and handsome, Andres showed Jasmine a life she didn't know was possible.
Oh my goodness.
Surprise!
You are just too sweet to me.
I know.
He was romantic, he doted on her, and she had never felt love like that before.
It must have been maybe their first or second date. He took her to a restaurant on the water. She was like, it was so romantic. There was like a pianist and he had flowers at the table, and it's just a romantic side of him that she wasn't used to in previous relationships.
By the fall of 2010, Jasmine and Andres decided to take their relationship to the next level.
She said, I met this guy in New York and, we're going to get a place together. Whenever I asked about how she was doing, she always kept it very positive.
He came to Springfield with her to visit us for the holidays for Thanksgiving, and we all had a great time. We felt like he was family, and I felt like he definitely felt like we were family to him.
The couple's romantic getaway in April of 2011 was another sign that things were turning serious.
He decided to take her on a trip to Aruba, and she had a blast. She loved it, loved it, loved it. She sent us a lot of pictures. She was like, it was great. I never wanted to leave. We had such a fun time.
While her relationship with Andres was reaching new heights, Jasmine remained committed to achieving her goals. And on June 5th, 2011, she made a big announcement to her sister Melanie.
Hey. She told me that she had found a job as a receptionist at a doctor's office. And she told me, I'm starting tomorrow.
Well, with work and school, it's going to be hard trying to juggle, everything.
She gave me her whole schedule that night. She was like, I'm going to be going to school at this time. So you need to either catch me really early in the morning or really late at night.
Mostly, though, the sisters stayed in touch online.
It's just the easiest way to stay in touch these days.
On June 7th, the day after Jasmine's first day on the job, Melanie was excited to check in to see how her sister's first day went.
I sent her that Facebook post, got a semi-response, I guess. Never got a phone call. I didn't really think anything of it. I was just like, she's really busy, so I know she'll reach out to me at some point.
But Melanie's still waiting to catch up with her sister on Friday, June 17th, when her father, Maximo, gets an alarming call from Jasmine's college.
Hello? Yeah, I'm a father.
She live in the Bronx. I live in Brooklyn. I work in Manhattan, so by the time that I actually was making it home, it was kind of late, so we weren't seeing each other a lot.
Not in the last couple of weeks? Is there a problem?
The school official tells Jasmine's dad that they hadn't seen her in class for a week.
That kind of threw me a red flag that is not normal.
What Maximo Nunez doesn't realize is this call is the start of a whirlwind investigation that will send his family searching for answers across 3 states and will uncover a horrifying truth that will change their lives forever.
This is not a movie. This is not somebody you read about or a friend. This happened to us.
In June of 2011, 22-year-old Jasmine Nunez was on top of the world.
Coming back to New York for her was a fresh start. It was a world of opportunities, and she definitely took advantage of that.
She was pursuing a career. She'd recently moved in with her boyfriend.
Jasmine was happy. I mean, things were actually going her way.
But since she'd started her new job on June 6th, Jasmine had been so busy she barely had a chance to catch up with her sister Melanie.
I didn't really think anything of it, even though I didn't reach her because she had given me almost that warning, like, hey, I'm not going to be available.
Then, on June 17th, Jasmine Nunez's father, Maximo, received some worrying news from his daughter's college.
Jasmine hadn't been to school in quite some time.
But that's not all.
Before the school administration tried to reach out to Dad, they tried to reach out to Jasmine, and they found out her cell phone had been disconnected.
Something was wrong. This is not Jasmine.
Worried, Jasmine's dad places a call to his daughter Melanie in Massachusetts.
She was basically asking me if I had heard from Jasmine because her school had reached out. I honestly wasn't concerned. I was just like, okay, like, how many days?
The last time they talked, Jasmine said she was super busy, starting a new job and everything. It's possible she just skipped class a couple of times. But now she's looking back at her Facebook and realizing it was days since her sister had even responded to those messages.
Then when I started thinking about it, I'm like, okay, you know, colleges are not like high school and elementary school. They don't call your parents for not showing up.
I've been trying to reach out to her on Facebook and she has not gotten back to me. Call Andres.
This has them so worried. She calls Andres, but she couldn't get in touch with him either.
Voicemail.
My mom kind of went into like frantic mode. Like her mother instincts were just kind of like something's not right.
Maximo.
Jasmine's mother reached out to me and tells me, please go and check up on her because, you know, she's having concern.
I said to him, go and find your daughter.
Around 8 p.m. that night, Jasmine's father travels out to the Bronx apartment his daughter shares with Andres.
When I get there, I knock on the door. Nobody answers. So I spoke with Iris again and agreed, you know what, we're calling the cops.
Maximo is still waiting outside his daughter's apartment when police arrive to perform a welfare check.
Basically, a welfare check is when the relatives or friends of someone who hasn't been seen in a while, they contact the police and says, listen, we haven't seen our friend or loved one in quite some time. We're a little worried about them. Can you go to their house to see if everything's okay?
The cops get there. I explain the whole situation, the concern that I was having.
No one's here. There's nothing else you can do?
They tell me she could be on vacation. She could be away from the country. All these different scenarios. And I'm like, yeah, but this is not Jasmine. Even if she wouldn't have answered the phone at the time that we try to reach out to her, she still would reach out.
I'm sorry, but with there being no one here, there's really not much else that we can do.
The only way the police can enter someone else's home without their permission is if they have a warrant or if they have reason to believe that someone is in trouble.
I'm telling you, I got a really bad feeling about this.
I tell them there's no way days is going to pass by because she knows that, you know, when we call it's because we worry.
All right, stand back for me, okay?
Jasmine's father waits outside while officers make their way through the apartment.
Everything was in place. Didn't had any type of struggle. Was like they went somewhere and they were coming back. That's what it seemed like.
They're both adults. They could have just gotten up and left.
I'm fearing the worst. And the cop said, well, there's nobody there. Do you want to come in?
Did you find anything?
There's no one here.
Can't you, like, put out an APB or something?
All we have here is an empty apartment. So we're gonna have to give it a little bit more time before we can go that route.
Okay. Thank you.
They didn't see any immediate signs of foul play in the apartment, so they had to back off. They didn't have enough probable cause.
The cop kind of said give it 24 hours to 48 hours and let's just see what happens.
When Jasmine's father calls his ex-wife Iris, she refuses to just sit and wait.
I just said to him, I'm driving to New York and I'm not coming back until I found her.
It was too late in the day, so we waited till the morning. That night, my mom and I really did not sleep.
The next morning, while her mother drives, Melanie reaches out to her sister's closest friends.
All of our friends are like, she's gonna be found fine, like there's nothing to worry about.
I thought that maybe it was just Jasmine being like, hey, you know, I'm gonna go on a random trip and I'm gonna tell anybody I'll be back on Monday.
Sometimes when she was going through things, she would just kind of give herself space. Like, she wants to be private. She doesn't want anyone in her business. She'll get back to us. Just because that was her.
Despite their friends' encouragement, once Melanie and her mother arrive in the city, the family's anxiety only mounts.
This was Father's Day, and Jasmine always made a point to celebrate her dad.
Every Father's Day, I always heard from Jasmine. It was very important, even though we were apart from each other. That didn't matter. There was always a text, there was always a Facebook message and a phone call. Jasmine always knew how good it felt for me to hear from her on Father's Day.
But this Father's Day comes and goes with no word from Jasmine.
She never called her father. So this is remarkably unusual behavior.
That was super, super out of the ordinary. Something wasn't right.
They knew that something really bad happened to Jasmine, and they were determined to get to the bottom of it.
Even if that means going at it alone.
At this point, there's maybe nothing law enforcement can do, but that's not going to stop them.
This is their little girl. They're not going to rest until they know she's okay.
June 17th, 2011. It's been 12 days since anyone in Jasmine Nunez's family has spoken with a 22-year-old college student or her 26-year-old live-in boyfriend, Andres Ceballos.
I felt uneasy, and up until that point, my parents had been, pretty confident that, yeah, we're worried, but it's just something small. Like maybe she just forgot to tell us that she was taking a weekend off or something.
But after Father's Day passes with no call from Jasmine, her family starts an investigation of their own.
My cousins started to create missing person flyers with both of their pictures on it. We were posting them everywhere. And so we were getting phone calls from people seeing her at the grocery store and people were seeing her down the street.
It was like a dream. Just seeing like the flyer, and there were different pictures, and they posted where she was last seen, what she looks like.
All around Brooklyn, all around the Bronx, which felt really bad for me because I didn't really want to believe what was happening.
I'm like, okay, when is she going to contact someone? When is this going to stop?
While Jasmine's friends and family continue to plaster the city with flyers, her sister and father make a return visit to Jasmine and Andres' apartment.
I just want to make sure, that I don't see anything that's out of order or place, because I would be able to tell, I thought, better than my dad could.
The landlord was there at that time, so they opened the door for us.
Upon first glance, everything looked fine. There was nothing out of place like they had mentioned.
Maybe he took her on a random vacation just to be nice.
Andres was always pulling off romantic gestures. Maybe it was possible that he just surprised her with a romantic getaway.
Since Andres worked at the airport, she was able to take trips.
A few months before he decided to take her on a trip to Aruba.
But when she would take trips, she would post like pictures that it was like of her feet or like in the water.
But as Melanie continues looking around, she starts to notice little things that seem amiss.
I went into the bathroom. Her flat iron was like still sitting on the sink. Like she had either just used it or was going to use it.
Dad, there's no way she would have left these.
Maybe she left them out.
No, if she were going on a trip, she would bring these with her.
In the bedroom, Melanie makes another puzzling discovery.
Melanie found a bag of hers that was packed with some things.
It looked like maybe an overnight bag.
This doesn't make sense.
That bag stood out to me because it looks so freshly packed.
Something's not right.
Before they leave, Melanie and her father look for the couple's car in the building's garage.
The car was missing.
They asked the parking attendant about the videos from the security camera, but it's a dead end.
It was just kind of like a camera that didn't work. It was just more to like scare people off than to actually record.
It just isn't adding up to them. It feels like maybe something's wrong.
This is like not a prank. She hasn't contacted anyone. This is not normal.
More convinced than ever that something has happened to Jasmine, Melanie and her parents go to the nearest police precinct and meet with missing persons detectives.
We kind of just showed up because we wanted to see their face and like we thought being there in person would get us more answers.
Okay, Detective Bradley. I just want to know where my daughter is.
I remember I said, listen, it has been too long. No answers. I need to know what's happening.
Well, sir, that's exactly what we're trying to figure out. Now, your sister's boyfriend, what exactly was their relationship like?
Pretty normal, I guess.
There were no red flags. He seemed fine, you know what I mean? Like, she might have seemed annoyed with him every once in a while, but I feel like everything was fine. She would complain to me about his jealousy and his controlling ways, and it was always very subtle.
Jasmine never showed any symptoms, like this was relationship abuse, or that they keep beating up, arguing. We never seen that. She was a good, smart woman.
But you haven't spoken to her on the phone in more than 2 weeks?
Nope. Just a few messages on social media, but even that's been radio silence for a few days.
When I told the detective that, she said, I do see that there could be something really wrong.
Would one of you like to come with me to fill out the paperwork?
I'll do it.
You want me to come with you?
No, I got this.
It was, don't worry about it. Let us do our job. We eventually gonna get to the bottom of this. So we were just in this room, just sitting there, waiting for answers.
I was still holding on to that hope that everything was going to be fine.
As she anxiously waits, Melanie's phone rings.
Hello?
But the voice on the phone isn't the one Melanie so desperately wants to hear.
Hey, Pam.
Melanie gets a call from a childhood friend, and that call was very disconcerting.
She said, I don't know if you know, but the New York State Police created a Facebook page and they posted a body that they had found that they're trying to identify. And then I was like, what do you mean a body?
What?
June 20th, 2011. After 14 days of worry, the family of Jasmine Nunez has finally convinced law enforcement that she and her boyfriend, Andres Ceballos, are missing.
So at that point, we're just like trying to get any type of leads. I knew something was wrong.
Hello?
But as she waits for the missing persons report to be processed, Melanie receives a call that brings her deepest fears to the surface.
What?
A body was found at James Beard Park, and police are trying to identify it.
She felt like she needed to tell us.
While Melanie's mind races, she can't know that this call is the culmination of a statewide investigation that began 8 days ago. June 12th, 2011. It's just before dawn, as the sound of sirens cut through the tranquil quiet of James Beard State Park, a recreational area 2 hours north of New York City.
It's a park in the Hudson Valley, right off the Taconic Parkway, which is a really beautiful, scenic area, really serene, quiet.
A person driving noticed something ablaze, and the firefighters are called to the scene.
It's a heavily wooded area, so it's common to have a brush fire.
Pushing their way through the trees, firefighters discover the blaze and work quickly to stop its spread.
They think they're coming just to put out a routine brush fire that happens from time to time in these state parks.
But this fire is unlike the others.
We're going to need to call Major Crimes.
It's not a brush fire, but it's actually a body that's been consumed by these flames.
The body was badly charred as a result of a fire. Very unrecognizable.
Though one thing seems clear to responders.
This appeared to be the body of a female.
While the flames seem to have destroyed most of the evidence on the scene, when detectives arrive, they notice one clue that could help identify the mystery woman.
Get a close-up of that.
There was a tattoo on her lower back, a very distinct tattoo, red and purple flowers with green leaves all around it. It was a custom tattoo. It wasn't something that you could just go to your average tattoo store and pick up off the wall. This was something that was specifically designed for this young woman.
That was photographed at the scene.
Obviously, this tattoo could be the key to identifying the victim.
But exactly how she died is as much a mystery as her identity.
It was very difficult to see any injuries at that point.
Since her body was dumped in the park and set on fire, the detectives are pretty sure it's a homicide.
That's not the only assumption detectives are able to make either.
A crime like this, where, they're concealing the identity of the body, kind of tells us it's someone close. They want to distance themselves from the person to give them time to get away.
But who would commit such a heinous act? As day breaks, detectives track down the man who'd first reported the fire.
Yeah, I understand you guys called the fire in?
Yeah, I did.
He had actually seen the fire when he was on his way to golf near the park.
You see anything else unusual?
No, I didn't. Actually, I did. When I was driving in,
He exited the Taconic onto the road leading to the James Baird Park. And as he did, he passed a vehicle on the right-hand side. He described it as a silver car with someone standing on the right passenger side near the trunk area of the vehicle.
Could you describe him?
Maybe. I only saw him for a second.
He didn't think much of it and continued on. And then a couple minutes after that, his golf partner comes and meets him in the parking lot. They have a conversation. Hey, did you see the car up there? And he goes, no, but did you see the brush fire?
And that's when I called 911.
You have a man standing in that vicinity with a silver car. And then you have this second witness that comes through a couple minutes later and sees the brush fire. It was a good surety that this individual was the person that we were looking for.
Thank you for your time.
Convinced they've got a lead on the killer, detectives issue a bolo for the silver Chevy sedan and ask the witness to work with a composite artist.
That individual was able to provide the police with a sketch of that person who was driving the car.
With the sketch in hand, investigators comb the surrounding area for any signs of the suspect.
We were knocking on every door in the area to see if anybody saw anything. We went basically from the Pennsylvania line to the Connecticut line on major thoroughfares, as well as every gas station to obtain the video, in the hopes that we would get a glimpse of whoever did this.
Detectives also pour over data from the automated license plate readers installed on state police cruisers.
Anytime a vehicle passes one of our LPR cars, it records the license plates. So we were dumping that database for that time frame. Hopefully some police car somewhere picked up on this.
While their searches come up empty, on June 17th, New York State Police detectives received the autopsy results from their Jane Doe.
The medical examiners determined there's no signs of smoke inhalations in her lungs, which meant she was not breathing during the fire.
Though the autopsy confirms their victim died prior to being set ablaze, the medical examiner can only speculate when it comes to the actual cause of death.
This leads the medical examiner to conclude that she either died from strangulation or asphyxiation.
The autopsy also finds one final clue clinging to her charred clothing.
There were green pieces of fabric on the victim.
So the detectives believe that the killer actually wrapped the victim in a blanket in order to move the body.
Hoping for a lead, detectives run the victim's DNA and fingerprints through their database.
The DNA, the dental records, the fingerprints led to dead ends.
Which leaves detectives with few options.
We didn't have an identity yet. It was very difficult to move forward on an investigation when you had limited information. So we go up on the missing person database to see if any missing persons have been reported to other jurisdictions.
Yet again, detectives come up empty-handed.
No missing person had been reported that matched the description that we had.
They needed something to break in this case.
So detectives play the one card they have left.
We took a picture of the tattoo and we generated leads through Crime Stoppers and put it out to the public.
Police saw this tattoo as their best chance to identify the body.
State police detectives also post a picture of the victim's tattoo to social media.
We'd set up the Twitter account and the Facebook page. It was still relatively new. And we put out as much information as we could on Facebook and Twitter to get the information out to the public.
It's the same post that Melanie Nunez gets a call about 3 days later on June 20th.
What? I was like, what do you mean a body? And she was like, yeah, there was a body that was found at a park and they posted a picture of what looks like Jasmine's tattoo.
On Facebook? Okay, well, can you send me that picture?
Could the body really be Jasmine?
Jasmine had this big tattoo on her back.
I was the first one to see the picture and I said, that's Jasmine's tattoo.
Melanie just started crying. I mean, like, out of control crying.
Barely an hour after her family reported her missing, it appears that 22-year-old Jasmine Nunez may have been found.
A friend saw a post on social media from the New York State Police about an unidentified body.
It gave a description of her clothing and it had a picture of her tattoo.
It's a tattoo that, according to the friend, looked an awful lot like the one on Jasmine's back.
Oh my God! That was all I needed. I knew that was her. There was just things that I noticed. The tattoo was on her lower back. I noticed the shape of her back. I noticed just things that I know as her sister. And I remember that she customized that tattoo. Like, she kind of told the artist what she wanted. I remember my dad looking at me and he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "They found Jasmine dead." And that's when my dad lost it.
That day in the police station, what I felt, I had never felt in my life before. By far the worst day of my life.
It falls to Jasmine's father, Maximo, to break the news to her mother.
She wasn't in the room with us. I remember going out. She didn't know anything about what just took place. I just felt like I was the one that needed to let her know.
He didn't even have to say anything. There were literally no words exchanged. They just knew. I don't know if it was the look he gave her.
Like, no. Like, no. And my whole world just fell apart. I knew right there that she was gone.
While the family grieves, NYPD detectives reach out to their counterparts at the New York State Police.
We got a phone call from NYPD, and they said, we believe that we might have your victim identified down here in the 46th precinct.
The NYPD believes they may have identified a suspect too.
There was a boyfriend that was missing. And any homicide investigation, you're going to look to someone close first. Either a husband, a boyfriend, things along those lines.
With their first real lead in the case, state detectives make the 2-hour drive into the city.
State police detectives show their sketch to NYPD, hoping to get a confirmation.
But when detectives share the sketch with Jasmine's family, things become less clear.
No, I don't think this looks anything like Andres. If anything, this looks more like her ex-boyfriend, Carl.
Did they separate on good terms?
I mean, he was pretty upset over the breakup.
He was infatuated with Jasmine. Like, he reached out to me a few times just because he loved her. And I think that at the time he might have not understood why their relationship was ending.
Is it possible that Carl is the killer and Andres is another victim?
So detectives wonder just how angry Carl was after the breakup, because they know revenge is a catalyst for murder.
A person who would do such a thing is, in my opinion, just someone who was fixated on the idea of having a person.
The scenario becomes even more plausible after detectives run Carl's name through the database.
A previous girlfriend, not Jasmine, reported to police that he had been stalking her and actually filed a restraining order against him.
Possibly this behavior had something to do with the disappearance of Jasmine.
Desperate for leads, detectives attempt to locate Jasmine's ex-boyfriend.
In a homicide investigation, sometimes when you break the name of the victim, things go very, very fast. So once we had the name and it was confirmed, and then we had a name of the potential suspect at that point, calls were being made to find out what's going on with this. It was just another step getting closer to finding justice for Miss Nunez.
But when Detective Mulkins reaches out to Carl, he comes up empty-handed.
Carl wasn't home, but he talked to Carl's roommate, who said he had barely seen Carl in the last month.
Is it possible that he's in New York stalking and murdering his old girlfriend and maybe her new boyfriend too?
Hoping for some insight, detectives turn back to Jasmine's family.
Do you have any idea where Carl might be?
No. Do you mind?
No, absolutely.
Studying the sketch a second time, Melanie notices something she'd missed before.
The sketch also lists a description of the suspect's vehicle.
This car sounds more like Andres' car.
He had like a newer car. I want to say it was a 2010 or 2011 Chevy.
What Melanie says next could finally bring detectives face to face with her sister's killer.
You know, I think it has OnStar.
OnStar, in any given moment, would be able to locate a vehicle, say it was stolen or for whatever reason. It's a tool for us.
Kind of operates like your cell phone. When you lose your cell phone, there's certain things you can press and it starts pinging and it will locate your cell phone for you.
Melanie's tip sends detectives scrambling.
So they're pretty sure that the person that killed Jasmine was driving Andres' vehicle. But is it Andres or Carl? Because they are both MIA.
We got a hold of our electronic surveillance unit, and they were doing search warrants for us to go up on OnStar to track the vehicle. Within hours of identification of Ms. Nunez, OnStar was reporting that the vehicle was in Emporia, Virginia at that point. So calls were made down to Virginia State Police as well as the Southampton Police to try to locate the vehicle.
Thanks to OnStar's data, detectives are able to quickly direct Virginia police to the suspect's vehicle.
OnStar has the capability of real time with the vehicle. And at that moment, they were in contact with the Southampton police and articulating where his location was on a minute-by-minute basis.
Just after 6 p.m., a sheriff's deputy finally catches up to the vehicle. But as he gets out of his cruiser, the driver speeds away.
At this point, they didn't know who was driving it. They just knew that whoever was driving it took them on a high-speed chase on the highway.
Police actually bring out the spike strips. They blow out the tire, which forces the car off the road.
He ends up ditching the vehicle and gets out on foot.
After an intense foot pursuit, deputies finally corner the man believed to be Jasmine's killer.
Drop that gun! Drop it now! Drop that gun! Drop your gun! Drop the gun! Put the gun down!
After a high-speed chase and foot pursuit, sheriff's deputies in Virginia have just cornered Jasmine Nunez's suspected killer.
Drop your gun now! You drop that gun!
But before they can bring him into custody, he takes matters into his own hands.
Drop it now! Put the gun down! Drop it! Put the gun down! Drop that gun!
He shot himself, put a bullet in his head.
He was a coward. He took his life by shooting himself.
It's only after he's dead that deputies confirm the suspect's name.
When they go through his pockets, they find the man's ID.
Jasmine's boyfriend, 26-year-old Andres Ceballos.
Now that Andres is dead, it solves the mystery of who killed Jasmine, but so many questions remain.
What happened between him and Jasmine? How did she die? Why did he do it? How did he go from the Bronx to dumping her body several hours upstate New York?
When Andrew took his own life, he also took away all the answers.
It falls to detectives with the New York State Police to piece the puzzle together.
We're able to go down and bring back, the weapon as well as the vehicle. Once here, our forensic investigation unit, as well as myself, processed the vehicle.
Detectives also follow up with Jasmine's family, hoping to learn more about her relationship with Andres.
They kept throwing around this word of domestic violence, and I just thought domestic violence was like physical and punches and bruising and the obvious things that you can see with your eyes. And now looking back, I realized that there were red flags. She told me he was going into her Facebook and going into her emails. Had I been a little bit more educated before she passed away, maybe I would have been able to notice things and say, hey, like that doesn't seem right.
He was getting more paranoid. He was a very jealous type and very suspicious.
There were just times that I could tell that she was a little bit annoyed by his presence. I don't know if I should have maybe poked at that a little bit more and asked her, do you want him here? Do you want us to tell him to leave?
According to friends and family, Andres may have tried to control Jasmine in other ways too.
Andres tried to convince her that she should just focus on school and that he would handle all the bills. He tried to gain financial control of her. She wasn't 100% on board with that because she's just always been really hardworking and really independent.
I think below the surface, things were starting to deteriorate.
But that still doesn't explain just how Jasmine died.
We know enough about Andres to know that he was a very jealous person. I think his behavior showed that he was very controlling, very demanding. And obviously something happened that tipped him over the breaking point.
Considering the timing of her disappearance, detectives believe Jasmine's new job may have been the catalyst.
Jasmine was supposed to start her receptionist job on June 6th.
The last time anyone spoke with Jasmine was June 5th.
She said, I'm starting a new job tomorrow, letting me know, hey, I'm basically going to be unavailable almost all day.
When detectives tracked down the doctor who'd hired Jasmine, they learned that she never showed up for her first day on the job.
Police were able to figure out that Andres likely killed Jasmine on the evening of June 5th.
Hey, babe.
Hey,
What you doing in here by yourself? What's going on?
getting stuff together for tomorrow.
You always think about tomorrow. What about tonight? Got this restaurant
Babe,
picked out for us.
I'm busy.
Why are you so tense?
You should know that I took the job yesterday. I start tomorrow.
Took the job.
A fight, argument probably ensued.
A fight that turned violent.
But didn't I tell you not to take that job?
You told me.
Yeah, I told you not to take that job, remember?
didn't tell me
That I
not
got
to.
us, that I've been working for us? What about all that?
to have
I don't care what you asked for. I give you
The detectives believed that it was a fight that went bad and he strangled her.
Then, at some point after Jasmine was dead, Andres wrapped her up in the comforter off their bed and placed her body in the trunk of his car.
At the scene and at the autopsy, we noticed green pieces of fabric on Miss Nunez. The family had said that there should have been a green comforter on the bed, and we determined that the green comforter was no longer there.
But detectives don't know exactly when Andres moved Jasmine's body out of the apartment.
They do know that he spent the next several days trying to convince her family and friends that she was still alive.
What appeared to be Jasmine returning messages was in fact Andres pretending to be Jasmine and communicating with them via social media.
A further look at Andres' vehicle reveals that shortly after, he had gone to a local hardware store and purchased supplies to obscure Jasmine's identity when he dumped her body.
We find the receipt in the car of him buying the 3 items of lighter fluid on the 11th.
Later that night, detectives believe he drove north out of the city to dump Jasmine's body in the park.
When we took that GPS out of the car, our computer crimes unit was able to see Mr. Sabalos getting into his car and driving all the way up to the Taconic State Parkway. And it was stopped for a period of 5 minutes, where again, the witness drives by him and sees him.
It was so dark, and the witness only saw him briefly, which is why the sketch didn't really look like Andres. But the GPS data leaves little doubt it was Andres.
While detectives are able to provide at least some answers for Jasmine's family, it does little to ease their pain.
I lost just about everything when she died. Definitely a part of me.
She did not deserve to die so young. She got tons of dreams. And she was such a good person.
When I do think about Jasmine, it's times where I laugh. Because I look at her life and the purpose that, she was actually here on earth. I guess it's to just show other people how big of a difference you can make just through a smile and your personality.
There was just so many people that she touched that loved her and cared about her. She impacted their lives. So her Facebook page became like a memorial where her friends share their memories. So there were just so many stories that were similar to like, she was the first person to talk to me when I started this job or when I started school or when I moved into town. Like she was just always such a supportive friend.
And Melanie is making sure that Jasmine continues to have an impact on the world.
Shortly after Jasmine's death, I took it upon myself with the support of my friends and my family to create a foundation in her memory. It's called the Jasmine Nunez Foundation. And the whole goal of the foundation is just to spread awareness on domestic violence and educate, teenagers and college students. With the foundation, we speak at local colleges, we host domestic violence awareness marches, and we just try to find, anyone that needs help.
Someone is going to hear her story. Someone is going to be touched. And, if they're experiencing anything of what Jasmine went through, she's going to make a change in this world.
A chance encounter gives a single mom a second chance at love.
They would spend their lunchtime in the park, and that's where they initially met.
Lunch turned into a romantic relationship, and they were seeing each other outside of work.
She's in a really great place in her life. She's excelling at work, and she's now met a guy who she really sees a future with.
But just when it seemed true love was right around the corner, tragedy strikes.
Someone came up to her and shot her in the head while she was walking to her car.
Police are baffled by this.
Eyewitness accounts point to one man.
She saw a guy the day before hanging on the steps that actually gave her the creeps.
But solving the crime will take nearly a decade.
Finally, he's like telling the truth.
And when that truth does come out, it will expose a ruthless abuser hiding in plain sight.
Said that he would like her removed.
September 25th, 2001, Hawthorne, California. It's a typical Tuesday morning in this bustling LA suburb of 90,000.
It's a working class city, and most of the people work in surrounding cities like Los Angeles, Inglewood, Carson.
Hawthorne is a overall safe neighborhood, predominantly an area for middle class families. There's not a lot of crime in that area.
As most residents are on their way to work, 911 calls begin flooding in from an apartment complex on Hawthorne's east side.
Numerous people heard a gunshot and saw a subject running from the area.
This is
an area that police don't normally get these type of phone calls, especially this time of day.
At that time of morning, 7 o'clock, you would find people getting ready for work, on their way to work, and children walking to and from school.
Within minutes, officers are on the scene.
When police arrive, they find a woman laying in the parking garage.
She was sprawled out at the bottom of the stairwell with what appears to be a gunshot wound to the head.
Despite her horrific injuries, officers can still detect a faint pulse.
So they try to revive her until the EMTs can get there.
While officers fight to save her life, concerned neighbors gather at the scene.
Neighbors identified the victim as 27-year-old Crystal Taylor.
Hawthorne, California was the only home Crystal Taylor had ever known.
She grew up in Hawthorne in a very close-knit family.
Their family is just a working-class family, primarily raised by a mother who taught them the value of family.
She had 2 older sisters and a mom that she referred to as her best friend. Her sisters referred to her as very humble, very down-to-earth, fun, loving.
She was the type of person that everyone loved to be around. Her smile was just contagious.
It wasn't long before boys took notice.
Crystal was a beautiful girl inside and out, the kind of girl any guy would be lucky to date.
Though Crystal only had eyes for one guy, Glenn Collins.
I missed you.
I missed you.
This was your typical high school sweetheart relationship.
They were smitten. It was young love.
But in 1991, Crystal and Glenn were forced to grow up quickly.
Crystal got pregnant in high school at just 16 years old.
Glenn wasn't really ready to be a father. He still felt like a kid himself.
Though Glenn and Crystal decided to separate, she embraced the idea of motherhood.
Crystal was very excited to have the baby, even though it was going to force her to grow up a little quicker.
Being a single mom was not the end of the world for her. She had people who can help her, her older sisters as well as her mother. They were very close-knit, and they knew that she would have support.
With her family's support, Crystal tackled the challenge of being both an ambitious student and a teenage mom.
Crystal graduated from high school, got a good job, began to build a life for herself.
Crystal ultimately landed a well-paying corporate job in the nearby suburb of Carson and was able to afford her own apartment in Hawthorne.
She remained really close with her sister and ends up living in the same building as her sister, Allison.
She was also able to provide for her son, Jeremy.
Crystal was a great mother. She had a wonderful relationship with her son.
While Crystal was devoted to her little boy, he wasn't the only man in her life.
She had an on-again, off-again relationship with a guy named Tony Prescott.
Crystal met Tony in her early 20s through a mutual friend, and they really hit it off.
Just like Crystal, Tony was a very hard-working guy.
He was busy, she was busy. Basically, it was just very casual, just hanging out when they got the chance.
However, a chance encounter in the spring of 2001 offered the hard-working single mom a shot at something more.
At work, Crystal liked to go outside and walk to the park nearby to have lunch,
where she met handsome 19-year-old Derek Smyer.
Derek worked at an office building nearby, and he would frequently have lunch at the park as well.
Derek approached her because she's a pretty young lady, and they started talking.
Mind if I join you?
Oh, sure.
I'm Derek, by the way.
Derek, I'm Crystal.
Though Crystal was 8 years older than Derek, she discovered she had a lot in common with him.
They have sort of the same background. They've been through the same hardships. So there's an instant connection.
Like Crystal, Derek had also been forced to grow up fast.
Derek also had a child in high school with his high school girlfriend, Megan Thompson.
I think she was like 14 when they were dating and she got pregnant.
Derek actually dropped out of high school to support Megan and his daughter. He wanted Megan to be able to finish school and graduate.
While she was pregnant, he went to work to earn money to save up for the kid coming up.
It wasn't easy on him, but he did what he had to do. He worked hard to take care of his daughter.
Though Derek didn't let the responsibilities of fatherhood derail his dreams.
He had gotten his GED and enrolled in college and was really pushing for his career.
By the time he met Crystal, he was actually working and taking college classes at the same time.
Derek is a very confident person, very friendly, outgoing, and Crystal was very drawn to him.
Before long, they're meeting for lunch every single day, and it's something that Crystal looks forward to.
Lunch turned into a romantic relationship, and they were seeing each other outside of work.
Derek and Crystal had like-minded career goals. She could really see a future with him.
But just as the relationship began to speed up, Derek pumped the brakes.
While Derek was mature for his age, he still wasn't ready to settle down just yet.
You're not coming up?
No. But I'm really sorry right now. I got a lot going on. I'm not really ready to be in a serious relationship right now.
Derek was always looking for the next step to progress in his life and in his career.
They were involved for a very short time. I'm talking a matter of a month to 2 months.
Though Crystal was disappointed, she understood.
Crystal knew that juggling kids, school, and a career just left little time for a relationship.
With so much else going for her, Crystal had no need to dwell on Derek.
Crystal's in a really great place in her life. She's excelling at work. She has a great relationship with her son and her family.
But on the morning of September 25th, just minutes after seeing her son off to school, it looks as if Crystal's life may be over.
When the EMTs arrive, they try to revive Crystal, but she is in pretty bad shape.
At this point, she's unresponsive, barely hanging on.
As Crystal is rushed to the hospital, solving the mystery of why anyone would shoot such a hard-working single mom falls to Detective Robbie Williams of the Hawthorne Police.
When I show up, a big part of my responsibility is to first make sure that our crime scene is intact. Also to try to identify any possible witnesses.
But Detective Williams has barely begun before this shooting becomes a murder investigation.
You didn't make it.
Crystal was pronounced dead once she arrived at the hospital.
This really galvanized the community, and they wanted answers.
This was a young woman just making her way to work in the morning. If this could happen to her, it could happen to anyone.
Detectives will work feverishly to find the killer, but how much time and effort will it ultimately take to bring them to justice?
We aren't talking days here. We're talking years to get to the truth.
By the fall of 2001, Crystal Taylor felt stronger than ever.
She had overcome the challenges of being a teen mom, and she had found a career that she was passionate about.
She was raising her son on her own, and she was happy.
But on the morning of September 25th, the life that Crystal had worked so hard to build comes to a devastating end.
Someone shot Crystal in the head as she was leaving for work.
She was transported via ambulance to the hospital and was pronounced dead by a medical doctor.
Now it's up to Detective Robbie Williams and the Hawthorne Police Department to figure out why someone had gunned down the 27-year-old mother.
It looked like she was on her way to where her car was found parked. And that's pretty typical. You come downstairs, you go into your car, and you leave for your day of business. And that's what we suspected she was in the process of doing when she was fatally shot.
While what happened is fairly obvious, why is much harder to fathom.
We found no evidence that supported a robbery had taken place.
There's an old saying in criminal law is the crime scene does not lie. And in this case, it didn't appear like she was trying to hold on to her purse and they were trying to take money. In fact, her wallet was still found in the purse.
We found no evidence that someone may have broken into any of the cars or any suspicious kind of activity.
Which leaves Detective Williams to a singular conclusion.
For me, early on, it was beginning to look very much targeted.
But why would anyone set out to kill this young mother?
This wasn't a high crime area, and she wasn't a person with a criminal background.
Hoping to learn more, detectives turned to the growing crowd of neighbors on the scene.
They're trying to get some information, wondering, has anyone seen something?
We were not able to identify any eyewitnesses to the actual shooting. The witnesses that we interviewed, they saw the aftermath of that shooting.
Did you see anything today? All I know is I heard the shots. And then some guy in a hoodie just starts running.
He didn't see a gun in the hand of the person who was running away.
They really weren't for sure whether this guy was the shooter or not. He could have just heard the gunshot and ran away.
It's also not clear if the man is connected to what another witness tells police.
She heard a man and a woman arguing right before she heard the gunshot.
You have to remember how close these apartment complexes are to one another. It's very common to hear television, music sounds, and arguments from adjacent apartment buildings.
However, there's one witness who's pretty sure she did see the shooter.
There was an 11-year-old girl walking to school that morning, and when she heard the gunshot, she turned around. what she saw was a man running away with a shiny object.
Do you remember what he looked like?
He was black. He was wearing dark stuff.
The description matches the one police got from the first witness.
Still, none of the witnesses knows who the man is, nor can they provide any additional information that might help identify Crystal's attacker.
There was no report of drug usage. There was no report of gang ties. Okay, so who would she had upset to the point that be motivated enough to do this?
Hoping to answer these questions, police turned to the people closest to Crystal, her family.
They were devastated when they learned that Crystal was dead.
It hit him like a rock. It hit him like a rock.
Despite their grief, Crystal's family does all they can to help.
Crystal Taylor's family offered up background information that we just did not know.
They learned that the father of her son was a man named Glenn Collins, who was a former boyfriend and high school sweetheart.
How was their relationship? Did they co-parent okay?
Not anymore.
Crystal's family told police that lately, Glenn and Crystal's relationship had become rocky, and they had been fighting over child support issues.
It's a huge red flag for detectives.
Was Crystal currently dating anyone?
There's this guy, Tony. She's been seeing him on and off for a couple of years. And then there's this guy, Derek.
Did Tony know about Derek?
I'm not sure.
However, Crystal's sister says that she's pretty sure that none of the three men in Crystal's life are the shooter.
What makes you say that?
Because I'm pretty sure I saw him.
The day before Crystal was murdered, Allison saw a suspicious person sitting on the steps outside of their apartment as she left for work.
She even spoke to the guy.
Can I help you?
No. He's waiting on somebody.
Who?
Miss Wilson.
He indicated that he was waiting for a particular tenant, but the sister knew that this tenant was not at home and was kind of puzzled by this person being there and thought he was just someone who was looking for an opportunity to steal or break into something.
She was creeped out enough that she called Crystal and told her when she's leaving for work to leave out of a different door.
Now detectives are wondering, did the mysterious man come back the next morning?
Can you describe him for me?
Black guy. He was wearing a black hoodie.
The description that the sister provided to us was very much in line with the witness statement of the young lady who actually saw him running away that morning.
Though the description is a start, it doesn't offer much in the way of specifics. And even though Crystal's family believes none of the men in her life were capable of murder, detectives know that understanding more about this trio of relationships should be the next step in the investigation.
At this point, police had 3 potential suspects, one of which was Glenn, the father of her son.
Crystal had an ex-boyfriend that would come around by the name of Tony and a romantic relationship with Derek.
So we actually went to her place of employment in order to interview her coworkers.
The news of Crystal's death comes as quite a shock.
Crystal was very close with her coworkers. They were more like friends to her than coworkers. And they were absolutely devastated when they heard that she had been killed.
They were very distraught, but they gave us a very good insight into who Crystal Taylor was and who she was dating.
Most of what coworkers tell detectives lines up with what the sisters have already revealed.
But one of Crystal's coworkers adds a new piece to the puzzle.
The day before, Crystal had gotten a phone call that seemed to upset her quite a bit.
Voices were being raised, and it was an emotional phone call centering around the child and their relationship.
She was talking about to her son's father?
Yeah, Derek.
Wait, I thought Glenn was her son's father.
No, not the little boy. The new baby.
Crystal, who was pregnant by Derek.
Just hours after 27-year-old Crystal Taylor was gunned down outside of her Hawthorne, California apartment building, detectives investigating the crime have uncovered what could be a crucial clue.
According to one of her coworkers, Crystal was pregnant, and the father was her ex-boyfriend, Derek Smyer.
Immediately, detectives start to wonder if her pregnancy was the motive behind her murder.
The news makes finding Derek Detective Williams' first priority.
I wanted to dig further into it, looking at possible motivation here. This is someone who I want to talk to, like, right now.
You know where we can find Derek?
He works somewhere around here. One of these buildings over here, so.
Would you mind showing us where Derek is?
Yeah.
I wanted her to point out to us where Derek Smyer worked, because she has firsthand information about where he works, what's his name, what car he drives, what he looks like. She jumped in the car with me and my partner, and we went for a ride. We went to Anderson Park, where she directed us to go.
This is where they'd hang out and meet for lunch. Yeah, actually, I think that's him right there.
As we entered the parking lot, she pointed out who Derek Smyers was.
Derek Smyer?
Yes.
We're with Harlem Police Department. I want to ask you a few questions about Crystal Taylor.
We want to get consent, because at this point, we're going to have to say, yeah, it was Derek Smyer I saw him that morning. So probable cause did not exist, but he was most definitely a person of interest.
Crystal Taylor? Why are you asking questions about Crystal Taylor? Something's wrong?
I'm afraid so. She was killed this morning.
When they first told Derek that Crystal was killed, he seems pretty upset.
We were able to gain his cooperation, conducted an interview, just a preliminary interview, and he remained very cooperative.
Usually you do not want to go through a police interview without an attorney present. It's just a rule of thumb you just don't do. But he had nothing to do with this murder. He really had nothing to hide at all.
Derek tells the police that he and Crystal have actually not seen each other in several months, that life and work had sort of gotten in the way and they've been apart for quite a while.
He described it as an on and off type of relationship in which they were more casual.
Did you know she was pregnant?
That's what she told me.
His statement was basically that the child may have been his child, but it would be a stretch if it was.
Derek tells police that Crystal had reconnected with an old boyfriend and they may have gotten back together.
Does his boyfriend have a name?
I never met him, but... Tony?
Derek tells the detectives, even if he is a father, it's not a big deal as far as he's concerned.
Derek laid out how if he were to get someone pregnant, he would be responsible for his child.
Where were you at 7 a.m. this morning?
I was at home, getting ready for work.
With nothing to hold him on, detectives let Derek go and begin looking into his alibi.
There was a neighbor also that lives next door to Derek Smyer's house that indicated that she saw him that morning.
She had seen him leaving for work at the exact same time that Crystal was shot.
With Derek looking less and less like a viable suspect, detectives turned to the other two men in Crystal's life, starting with Tony Prescott.
When police bring Tony in for questioning and told him about Crystal's murder, he immediately broke down crying.
But are they tears of grief or remorse?
Did you know she was pregnant?
Yeah, man, but it ain't mine.
Police are now suspicious of Tony. They think maybe he's jealous that Crystal's carrying another man's child.
Now, you know that gives us motive, right?
It ain't even like that, man.
He said he was willing to carry on and hopefully grow this relationship to the point of wanting to actually marry her.
Where were you at this morning?
I worked the early shift. I've been at work all morning.
After talking to Tony, detectives confirm his alibi with his employer.
His alibi was rock solid.
Next, detectives move on to the final man in Crystal's life, Glenn Collins, her former high school sweetheart, and the father to her now 10-year-old son.
We had heard that there was a child support conflict.
It seems as if he has a motive.
But if Glenn is a killer, he's also a good actor.
Glenn seems pretty shocked by the news. He is visibly upset.
My son. Is my son okay?
His son, he's fine. He was already at school when the situation occurred.
Glenn admits that, yes, he and Crystal have argued about child support. Yes, it has gotten heated, but he swears he would never do anything to hurt the mother of his child.
This agreement in regards to child support, he said had been resolved.
Furthermore, Glenn claims he was nowhere near the scene of the crime at the time Crystal was shot.
He tells police that he was staying over at his girlfriend's house.
He was with a girlfriend in Long Beach, and at 7 o'clock in the morning, he got up and he went to work. The detectives called the girlfriend, who more or less said the same thing.
After talking to all three men in Crystal's life, detectives feel they're no closer to finding her killer.
At this point, we're still no definite 100% suspects.
Detectives finally catch a break 3 days later when they receive the results of Crystal's autopsy.
During the autopsy, the medical examiner recovered a .38 caliber bullet.
Since there were no shell casings at the scene, detectives figure the murder weapon was probably a revolver.
The autopsy also confirms what co-workers had already revealed.
She was 3 months pregnant, and with a male child.
With little else to go on, detectives circle back to the two witnesses who may have gotten a good look at the shooter.
Police bring in a sketch artist to work with Allison and the 11-year-old witness.
Detectives think the man Allison saw lurking around the building the day before is the same guy the 11-year-old saw fleeing the scene.
They provided the details of what that person looked like, and the sketch artist was able to draw a depiction of this person.
When they compare the two sketches, they're almost identical.
Now convinced they're the same man, detectives circulate the sketches throughout Crystal's neighborhood, hoping to find someone who can make a positive ID.
Finally, they get a lead. Someone identifies this person as a gang member by the name of C. Styles.
This could be the break that detectives have been desperate to find.
But this break in the case raises a puzzling question.
Crystal has no gang affiliation, and police are wondering, why would a gang member kill her?
72 hours after a mysterious gunman murdered 27-year-old Crystal Taylor outside her Hawthorne, California apartment, police have their first lead on the shooter.
Witnesses were able to assist detectives in coming up with a composite sketch, and a neighbor actually recognized the person in the sketch as a gang member who goes by the name of C. Styles.
Police are puzzled as to why a known gangster would want to kill Crystal. From all the information they've gathered, she has no affiliation with gangs.
To solve the mystery, detectives first have to find C. Styles.
We don't know who this person is. A check of the gang-related database in Los Angeles indicated several C. Styles.
After combing through all the C. Styles mugshots in their database, detectives decide to focus their efforts on one individual in particular, 30-year-old Skylar Moore.
When they pull his mugshot, it has a strong resemblance to the sketch.
He was a serious contender. He had committed numerous crimes, including assaults, carrying a weapon, and actually harming and hurting people.
Skylar Moore was a pretty hardcore gang member.
Skylar was actually out on probation during the time of Crystal's murder, and he only lived a few blocks away from her apartment.
But is he the shooter? Hoping for a positive ID, detectives put together a photo lineup.
We show them to the witnesses, and all of them circled and identified Skylar Moore as being the person they saw that morning.
Why a hardcore gang member would allegedly murder a single mom like Crystal Taylor remains a mystery.
We actually asked the question from coworkers and sisters, had you heard about this particular person in Crystal Taylor's life? Because we understand that people have these clandestine relationships at times.
No one that knew Crystal had even heard of Skylar Moore.
There was no indication that Crystal Taylor was involved in any type of gang. None of the boyfriends that Crystal had in the past were gang-related.
As hard as detectives try to link Skylar and Crystal, there is nothing connecting them. It just doesn't make sense.
Police start to wonder, maybe he is a hired hitman. And if he is a hired hitman, who hired him?
Detectives once again turn to the three men in Crystal's life.
There was Glenn, the father of her 10-year-old son. She had had child support issues with him for some time. And then there was Derek Smyer, the alleged father of her unborn baby. And most recently, Tony Prescott, her off-and-on boyfriend.
Despite their best efforts, detectives can find no clear link between Skylar Moore and any of Crystal's former boyfriends.
None of the boyfriends that Crystal had in the past were gang-related.
Which leaves detectives with one option.
Police bring Skylar in, hoping they can get him to rat out the person who hired him.
Though once in the interrogation room, Skylar Moore, aka C. Styles, shows no sign of cracking.
He says he doesn't even know Crystal. He denies murdering her, and he denies knowing any of the other men in her life.
I'll talk to you. Yeah, I don't know anything about this. That's what he consistently said.
But at the same time, he was an open book. He talked about his past history as a gangster.
I mean, I've done things, just not this.
Was often referred to as a soldier, someone who would go out and do assassinations, someone who the bigger, older gangsters would hire and put up to do these types of targeted hits. So he has the experience, the unique experience of being employed or used in that capacity.
That's when the interview takes a bizarre turn.
What was more revealing to me while interviewing Skylar was his familiarity with how to carry out a murder for hire type of situation. Very knowledgeable about those things. And he had great credibility.
Skylar picks up the photo of Crystal, stares at it, and says, whoever did this had a lot of rage.
He was able to articulate that as if he had firsthand knowledge of it. This person was angry. This person wanted her dead.
It really stuck out to detectives and made them start to wonder, was this his roundabout way of making a confession?
I believed everything he said, with the exception of the denial.
Before Detective Williams can explore that, the interview takes another unexpected turn.
I ain't kill her. But I did kill someone.
Out of nowhere, Skylar confesses to a completely unrelated murder.
The statements were, hey, Detective Williams, I didn't kill her, but I killed this guy. I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, what guy are you talking about?
According to Skylar, the man he killed was a member of a rival gang.
It was a local Hispanic gang. Skylar Moore, who's black and belongs to a predominantly black gang, came across this particular gangster at a liquor store, caught him unprepared, and he shot and killed him.
He walked out of the store and I smoked him.
It's almost as if he's bragging about it.
It is a completely different world that most people cannot relate to. It's just the way they did business, the brutality of gang life, and the commitments that these people make, and the values that they bring to the table.
Detectives aren't sure why Moore would confess to the murder.
For him to confess to that was remarkable. I really believe that no matter how bad you are or what you do in life, you want to tell your story to someone, even those human beings out here performing very bad. My job as a detective is to be non-judgmental and to validate you and who you are and the things that you've done, because my goal is to find out the truth.
Is he confessing to this murder to distance himself from Crystal's murder?
No matter why he chose to confess, his story appears to be true.
We took a break and called up the local sheriff's department. I was like, yeah, and this would happen. And it cleared their case. It didn't clear our case. We're still trying to find out who wanted Crystal Taylor dead. We believed he did it. We just didn't have any supporting evidence to say he did.
Detectives do have the matching sketches created from the 2 eyewitness accounts, which gives them probable cause to hold Skylar on suspicion of murder.
Skylar Moore is arrested and charged with the gang shooting as well as Crystal Taylor's murder.
But is there enough evidence to actually bring him to trial?
The DA's office, as well as my office, didn't believe that was enough to prosecute him on the Crystal Taylor case.
There were no fingerprints, no DNA. They never recovered the murder weapon. Their entire case relied on the eyewitness testimony of an 11-year-old.
Crystal's sister Allison can put Skylar at the scene of the shooting, but not on the day of the shooting.
Rather than risk losing at trial, the district attorney decides to drop the charges related to Crystal's murder.
However, he is not off hook because he is convicted of the gang shooting he confessed to.
Skylar Moore received a 25 to life sentence on that particular case and was sent away to a Northern California prison.
It's bittersweet for Crystal's family because they see him behind bars, but not for the murder of Crystal.
The case is just sitting on the shelves at this point. We're still waiting for things to mature. It's a patient waiting game.
One that goes on too long for Crystal's mother.
Crystal's mother dies, and she's never able to see her daughter's murder brought to justice.
Finally, in the summer of 2011, almost 10 years after Crystal's murder, there's a break in the case.
It just so happened that 2 detectives from the LA Sheriff's Department were at the prison where Skylar was being housed on an unrelated matter. While they're there, they decide, let's just pop in on Skylar.
Skylar Moore, while in prison, had committed another murder. So that means that he would never, ever get out of prison. And they saw this as an opportunity to talk to him. He had nothing to lose at this point.
But little can prepare them for what Skylar says next.
Moore was a hired hitman.
And one of his alleged clients has a direct connection to Crystal Taylor.
What did he say? He said that he would like her removed.
By the summer of 2011, Almost 10 years have passed since Crystal Taylor was murdered outside her Hawthorne, California apartment.
The suspected shooter, a gang member by the name of Skylar Moore, was in prison, but not for Crystal's murder. He was serving a life sentence for killing a rival gang member.
Police are pretty certain that Skylar was a hired hitman, but they can't seem to connect him to any of the men in Crystal's life.
On June 15th, 2011, this long, cold case heats up.
2 detectives just happened to be visiting the prison where Skylar was housed, and they're hoping that maybe this time they can get him to talk.
He's in solitary confinement. He maybe gets out, I think it's something like 20 or 30 minutes every couple of days, but basically he's spending 24/7 in an 8x8 cell.
When detectives sit down with Skylar, they dangle the prospect of him getting out of solitary if he helps them solve Crystal's murder.
So finally, Skylar starts talking.
He indicated that Derek had hired him to kill Crystal Taylor because she was pregnant.
That's Derek, as in Derek Smyer, the most recent of Crystal Taylor's ex-boyfriends.
How did you first meet Derek Smyers?
Through interactions at the park.
Skylar tells detectives that he met Derek Smyer while playing basketball in the park. And this is the same park where Derek met Crystal.
This is the connection they've been looking for more than a decade.
We started not really hanging out, just shooting the breeze, getting to know each other.
Skylar says that Derek had been complaining about Crystal and was angry because she refused to get an abortion.
He didn't feel she would be a good baby mama, or she was just trying to trap him for financial reasons.
So according to Moore, Derek wanted her and her baby dead.
What did he say?
He said that he would like her removed.
Skylar tells investigators that he offered to solve Derek's problem, but not for money.
Looks like a Peter play ball situation. They start talking about I need loyalty from you.
He wanted to use Derek for his drug sales because it's clean cut. Someone who the police department wouldn't normally look at.
Derek agreed to Skylar's deal and supplied him with Crystal's address and work schedule. On September 24th, 2001, Skylar cased Crystal's apartment complex, then returned the following morning to carry out the crime.
You did. Just shot her.
He says that he didn't have a conversation with her. He came up to her and shot her in the head.
It was cold, it was calculated. There was no regard for Crystal or the tiny life inside of her.
Skylar's account is chilling, but detectives have questions. For starters, if Skylar had truly killed Crystal, why did he confess to an entirely different murder the first time they questioned him?
Skylar went on to say the reason he did not confess to it in 2001 is because he didn't want to go to prison with that on his record, killing a lady with a child.
I love kids and all that stuff. Kids love me. I didn't know how to admit to that. Like, I was trying to forget it. Like, no, I didn't do it.
There's just some things you don't do. And that's one of those things, to kill a pregnant lady. And he was very ashamed of that. Because remember, he could go to prison and brag about killing the enemy. There's great credibility that comes along with that. Very little credibility to no credibility comes from killing an innocent person with a child.
But is he telling the truth now? The details in his story ring true to detectives.
Skylar tells detectives that he actually ran into Crystal's sister Allison the day before and almost killed her, thinking she was Crystal.
For a moment, I contemplated it might have been her, but then I seen her face. It wasn't her.
He also correctly identifies the murder weapon.
What kind of gun was it?
38.
After wrapping up their interview with Skylar, detectives pass this information on to Detective Williams, who works quickly to track down Derek Smyer.
Things have been going really well for Derek in the past decade.
He had gone to college. He had his own company. He had also had a second child with his on and off again girlfriend, Megan Thompson.
But early one morning in July 2011, Derek's past finally catches up with him.
We woke him up 5 o'clock in the morning by knocking on his door, pulled him out of bed, and we brought him to jail.
After a decade of waiting, detectives cut to the chase.
Here's the deal. We know you did it, Derek. Skylar told us everything.
Who?
Skylar Moore, C. Styles.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
Derek refuses to crack. No matter what the detectives throw at him, He stays cool, calm, and collected.
Without a confession and any evidence, they are forced to let Derek walk.
Who was the jury going to believe, Derek or a gang member who was already in prison for murder?
With Derek Smyer still a free man, detectives try a different approach.
Police track down the mother of Derek's 2 children, hoping to find out more about Derek.
Derek and Megan Thompson have had an on-again, off-again relationship for years.
Though at the time Detective Williams brings Megan in for questioning, her relationship with Derek is decidedly in the off position.
They're not together, but they're kind of co-parenting at a distance. At that point, she's still somewhat reluctant. You know, a bitter woman who have gone through probably more trauma and abuse than she has let on.
Could you tell us a little bit about what Derek is like as a dad?
He never wanted children. Megan tells them that both times she got pregnant, Derek had pressured her to get an abortion.
This sounds very familiar to what Skylar Moore said happened before Crystal's murder.
As suspicious as that sounds, it's nothing compared to what Megan says next.
Both times when she refused to get an abortion, she was attacked by a mystery assailant.
10 years after the death of Crystal Taylor, detectives investigating her murder have just received some breakthrough information about Crystal's ex-boyfriend, Derek Smyer.
According to Megan Thompson, the mother of Derek's 2 kids, she had been attacked brutally during both of her pregnancies.
She even suspected that he was responsible for those attacks. While she was pregnant with Derek's first child, this guy jumped out of the bushes and cut her throat, tried to kill her.
I still have a scar.
She had no particular conflict with anyone. It was just a random act of violence, as she described it.
According to Megan, a similar incident occurred in 2002 while she was pregnant with Derek's second child.
She was walking to her car and someone came up, threw her to the ground, and stomped her in the stomach.
We're kind of getting a theme here. Derek doesn't want the ladies that are in his life to have a child by him.
The similarities between Megan and Crystal's attacks couldn't have been a coincidence.
Megan Thompson's statement, coupled with the confession of alleged hitman Skylar Moore, give police the ammunition they need to arrest Derek Smyer for the murder of Crystal Taylor.
For Crystal's family, it was a huge relief, finally seeing someone in cuffs after all this time.
But that relief turns to shock when the prosecution's star witness takes the stand at Derek's murder trial in July of 2016.
Skylar Moore recants his confession to the murder. He claims he just told detectives what he thought they wanted to hear.
Without Moore's confession, prosecutors face an uphill battle.
How do you convict somebody of murder without physical evidence connecting him to the crime?
After 21 days of deliberation, the jurors could not reach a verdict, and the judge had to rule it a mistrial.
This is extremely frustrating for Crystal's family.
But there's still room for hope.
That was a hung jury, so that gives us an opportunity to try it again.
9 months after the first trial, Derek Smyer is back in the courtroom. He's again joined by Skylar Moore, but not as the state's key witness, but rather as a co-defendant.
This time, since Moore recanted his confession, he and Derek are both on trial for murder.
They were both charged for 2 counts of murder, one for Crystal and one for the unborn baby.
We ultimately put them on trial together so that you could see them side by side.
This time they focused more on Derek's motive.
The theory was still based upon Skylar Moore being hired by Derek Smyers to kill Crystal Taylor because she was pregnant by Derek.
They did a DNA test and they were able to prove that Derek was indeed the father.
To cement the link between Derek Smyer and Skylar Moore, prosecutors turned to the coworker of Crystal's who'd first pointed them in the direction of Derek.
Supposedly, she had seen Skylar Moore out at a basketball court where she had also seen Derek Smyers.
We believe that during the basketball games, he started a conversation with Skylar Moore, and they develop a friendship.
To bolster their case against Derek, detectives bring in the mother of his 2 children, Megan Thompson.
They put Megan on the stand to testify about the attacks she suffered.
Prosecutors also called the target of one of those alleged attacks to the stand, Derek's oldest daughter, now in her teens.
Derek's daughter talked about how much Derek hated being a father.
She said that Derek put on a show in front of other people. Behind closed doors, he was a different person, and he didn't want anything to do with her.
It was devastating to the defense for his daughter to testify that she thought he was a horrible father.
Rather than challenge his daughter's emotional testimony, Derek's attorney focuses on the forensic holes in the state's case.
There was no physical evidence consistent with him being involved. There was no physical evidence connecting either of the defendants to the crime scene.
Instead, the defense suggests that detectives had been too quick to rule out Glenn Collins, the father of Crystal's first child.
Crystal had been going after him to get the child support. And so when you combine with the eyewitness's testimony that there was an argument between a man and a woman before the gunshot, you start to suspect there was someone else involved.
With the seeds of doubt planted, Derek takes the stand in his own defense.
He admits that he suggested that Crystal have an abortion, but says that he respected her decision when she decided not to.
As both sides rest their case, it's unclear which way the verdict will go.
After little more than a day, jurors convicted Derek and Skylar on 2 counts of murder. Derek was emotionless during the verdict, which points to his lack of empathy. I actually believe that Skylar had more remorse than Derek.
To the relief of detectives and Crystal's family, both Derek Smyer and Skylar Moore are sentenced to life in prison.
We was able to get justice for Crystal Taylor and her child. We was able to get justice, true justice, for Crystal Taylor's family, her sisters who grieve, and her son who grieves.
Derek could have just walked away. Crystal really didn't need him. She'd already raised 1 child by herself, and she'd intended to raise this one by herself as well.
She was a good mom. And with the help of her family, she had made a great life for her and her son. And if it were not for Derek Smyer, she would have done it again.